You're listening to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health.
It only takes one step, twist, or crunch to know something doesn't feel right. Essentia Health's orthopedic and sports medicine team gets you back to doing what you love with commitment, resilience, intention. We're here to keep you moving forward. Visit essentiahealth.org to learn more about orthopedics and sports medicine, like nowhere else.
Hello and welcome to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health. I'm Matt Wellens, the Bulldogs hockey beat writer at the Duluth News Tribune and the Rink Live. No Zach Schneider again this week. My apologies for that. But thankfully, like last week's podcast, we have two veteran Bulldogs joining us. A couple of guys who've seen it all and done it all in their college careers. Welcome back to the podcast, UMD fifth-year senior forwards, Jacques and Tanner Laderoute. Welcome, guys.
Hey, how are you?
Thanks for having us.
I'm not going to attempt to do I think one of the worst, most embarrassing moments on this podcast came when we had Tanner on. I don't know how long ago it was, and I tried to say your name in French, and I butchered it. Horrible. Sam Erkala, former producer of this podcast, not here to do proper French, so no French on this week's podcast. But you guys are coming off a pretty crazy win in Denver on Saturday night. It's always interesting to hear people talk about how tough of a place Denver is to play. Magnus Arena, tough building to go into and beat Denver. You guys, I don't know if you know this, in your 5 years, in the 5 years you guys have been at UMD is 6-3 at Magnus Arena. You have to be like the only class in NCHC history to have a that good of a record at Magnus. I'm wondering, where does that arena and that road trip to Denver, where does that rank for you guys over the last 5 years? Tanner, start with you.
Yeah, I guess I can start us off here. It's one of the more fun ones. We get to go to Hibachi on Thursday nights, so that's always a good time. It's a little bit of a team bonding experience and a little bit of fun with those chefs and having a good time. But yeah, we've always given them trouble there for some reason. I remember Krause saying before we left, just keep giving them trouble because for some reason we always find a way to make it hard on them. But it is one of those harder places to play. The elevation mixed with them always being a really good team does make it tough.
Jesse, how about you? Where does this one rank?
They're just a really good team. You know, we get up to play them. We get excited because they're one of the best in our conference. And then Thursday nights, the Hibachi experience is just a blast. It's a nice team bonding experience. And it's kind of sad. It's Tanner and I's last time getting to do that. But yeah, definitely up there.
I love that you guys went to food on road trips, because that's entirely how I rank all these trips as well. Like Denver's up there. They got a couple good restaurants. There's this Denver Biscuit Company I hit up for breakfast. A place CK I found out is a big fan of now too. Bull and Bush Brewery is nearby in the Cherry Creek area. Like to hit that place up. What's the best food trip for you guys? What's the best trip food wise?
I guess that's kind of a hard question just because all of our food's basically chosen pre-trip. So we're basically just having some sort of meal on Thursday night and then basically just chicken and pasta for the rest of the weekend. So it is nice to have the places that kind of have the Chick-fil-A's or the Canes that you can kind of DoorDash here and there, because I mean we don't have that experience here in Duluth. But I mean, other than that, I think Miami, one time we went there and their dessert was just incredible. So I'd probably have to go with the Miami Thursday night dessert.
Like, is there a restaurant in the league that you guys look forward to going to every season?
I think Tanner's forgetting a sleeping giant here. It's Bennett's down in St. Paul. Whenever we go to the Frozen Face-Off or say we play the Gophers, we always go there, and it's a great experience. It's fun. The environment's cool. Food's great. The chicken Kiev.
Yeah, everyone does seem to love that. But I had chicken Kiev a lot in junior, so I don't even get it when I go to Bennett. So I guess that's maybe why it's not my number one ranking. But no, that always is a good time, and they treat us super well. You
guys DoorDash to the hotel now occasionally?
Yeah.
That's something I never did until like the pandemic. Is that something you had? I'm trying to remember back to the start of your freshman year. Is that something you guys were able to do back then, or is that a little new twist to your end of your college careers here?
Definitely more potent near the end of our careers. I can't really remember if we used to do it back then, but I think we did a little bit, or we'd find a way to get something.
Going back to that win on Saturday at Denver, 6-5. You guys score 3 goals in the second period. They get 2 quick ones to start the third, and you guys are able to hold them off. I'm wondering, later that night, during that third period, I kind of started having flashbacks to your freshman year, your first win at Denver. I don't know if any of you guys remember that. It was a 4-3 overtime win on a Saturday to split the series in 2018-19. That would have been your freshman year. You guys trailed 3-0 going into the third. You outshot Denver 20-7 in the third. I had forgot that stat till I looked it up. But you scored 3 goals, including one by Scott Peredovich with 1.8 seconds left. Do you guys remember who scored the game winner in OT? Do you guys remember this game now?
Cole Koepke,
52 seconds in. That Saturday game against Denver, like, how does that compare to some of the crazy games you played? And I'm wondering, did either of you have flashbacks to that first crazy game against, it would have been the second time you played Denver, but that first crazy win against Denver?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have many high-scoring games, just kind of how we play. We kind of compete really, really hard defensively. You know, we have a pretty good defensive game. So, I mean, to be part of those games can be pretty exciting. But to go into the third period with, 5-2 lead?
5-2 lead, yeah.
You got to make sure you hold on to that. You know, you can't let those slip away. But, yeah, those are very exciting games. But I don't think we really want to get into those high-scoring games all the time. But, yeah, definitely a good one.
I mean, high-scoring games between UMD and Denver, like, don't happen. Like, I'm picturing Hunter Shepard and Tanner Gillette looking at that box score, looking back on their alma maters last night and going, what the heck were you guys doing? Like, that never happened in their day. What was interesting was when I was also looking back on that score, like, that was 5-on-5 OT you guys played way back in 18-19. And it kind of got me started thinking, like, all the changes that have happened to college hockey in your guys' 5 years. And these are the ones that I could think of off the top of my head. Used to play 5 minutes of 5-on-5 OT before going to 5 minutes of 3-on-3 OT and then a shootout. The 5 minutes of 5-on-5 OT is gone. The transfer portal and the transfer rules, those things were completely different when your guys' career started. Name, image, likeness wasn't a thing. For you guys, like, what do you think has been the biggest change that you've seen over college athletics and college hockey in your 5 years since you started here? Tanner, you want to start with this one?
Yeah, sure. I guess this is going to be a kind of a lazy answer because this is what everyone's going to say if they play hockey or not. But COVID definitely just absolutely changed everything, giving us the opportunity to play another year. But we also didn't get to finish that year. So it's not like we got that true 5-year experience. We were one of the best teams going into playoffs there, and we were excited, 9-1 heading in. So we had another really good opportunity to maybe go for a three-peat. So giving us the opportunity to play again was huge. But yeah, just everything now different with COVID. Even that COVID year itself, like we built a bubble just so that we could play, and we were testing 3 times a week, and it was just crazy. But yeah, the transfer portal too, it's just crazy. It's like 200-300 players in that at a time, and there's players just changing all the time. But so I'd probably have to go with COVID happening would be the biggest change, obviously, for me.
I'd have to agree with that. I mean, it just kind of changed everything with college hockey, really opened up the transfer portal. It just really changed a lot of things. And like you even said, the change to 3-on-3 in overtime, that just kind of helps games, I feel like, go quicker and helps people score goals right away rather than bringing them into a shootout. But yeah.
You guys don't miss the 5 minutes of 5-on-5 OT before 5 minutes of 3-on-3 and a shootout. Those are some long games sometimes when they went to shootouts.
Yeah, definitely. I almost forgot that we did that, to be honest with you, and just watching the NHL go straight to 3-on-3, I think it's definitely helped the game, even just from a spectator's point of view. It's just a lot more exciting, and way crazier odd man rushes happen. So I think that was a good change just for hockey in general from a fan's point of view.
Are there changes you guys would still like to see to college hockey and college athletics?
Yeah, I don't know. Right off the top of my head, I don't really have many changes. No, I think it's in a really good spot where it is right now. Just follow any NHL changes is always a good idea. I mean, they're the pinnacle. So if they seem to make any changes, kind of follow them just to make sure that we're getting ready for that type of level of hockey. And just, I mean, they obviously have the right people making decisions.
Minus that stupid penalty for a puck going over the glass rule, right? We don't need that in college hockey. Dear God, please. No more weird penalties added to college hockey. That's another thing that came this year. Bruce Siskey's running gag now of making sure everyone gets off the ice before that 23-minute mark, so you guys don't get another protocol penalty.
Can we change that in reverse?
Get rid of protocol penalties?
Yes, that doesn't affect the game, and it makes penalties just. We
don't need any more penalties, right?
No.
There's the change. Fewer penalties. Reverse the protocol penalties. I featured the two of you guys at the start of the season. You're the last Bulldogs from the national championship teams from 18 and 19. What has it been like this season, the last of that class, to be the players the coaching staff trusts to pass down that championship experience and knowledge and such? Jesse, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy that how fast time flies. Tanner and I already being fifth years, but yeah, our freshman year, that was kind of a pinnacle year for us, winning that national championship. And I just feel like the guys coming in a way, you just kind of look up to that. Winning national championship is not easy. In college hockey, it's a very hard thing to do. And I think these kids, the freshmen, kind of learn, learn what it takes to win championships. It's not easy. It takes a lot of buy-in. But no, I mean, I think we're buying in at the right time right now. I think they're having fun. It's going to be an exciting ride here at the end. But yeah, that freshman year for us was definitely really big.
Tanner, does it seem long ago? We mentioned like everything you guys have gone through in these 5 years, and I feel like the pandemic kind of just made everything seem a lot longer. But like, does it still seem fresh in your mind winning that championship as a freshman?
Yeah, I can even go back before that. It just feels like I just moved to Duluth. I just moved to this country the other week, but now I've been here for 5 years. I mean, it's a massive part of my life. It's probably one of the biggest. It's just been so exciting and such a good ride, and the success we've been able to have is because of that culture. I mean, from the coaches down, from years down, I mean, I don't even know what the stat is now, but tournaments in a row, how many Frozen Fours, and like we're one of the pinnacle programs, and it's been awesome to be a part of that. And all we need to do is try to pass that. I mean, all we need to do. I mean, it's pretty hard to do, but pass that culture down and just make sure that everyone understands what it takes and what it is to be a Bulldog, and that it is a lot of expectations and a lot of work every single day to keep doing that.
7 consecutive NCAA tournaments, which is the longest active streak in Division I men's hockey right now. Should be 8. You guys would have made the tournament in 1920. I always throw that asterisk in there that you guys were a lock at that year to make that tournament. I kind of want to go back to I got one other question here, playing off Jesse saying kids, which makes him sound like he's with Zach and I on this podcast talking to you guys, but we'll get to that. But it's interesting, Tanner, you mentioned that the extra year you guys got, like that was probably the biggest impact, the biggest change to college athletics in your guys' career, because otherwise you wouldn't be here right now. You guys would have moved on already, but you guys get this extra year. It's actually a makeup for the 2020-21 year when you guys played 28 games that year, just 28 games. But for you guys, the year you kind of feel robbed of was when you played just 34 games the year before in 1920, right? Like, I'm wondering how much you guys still think about what if that season. Me as a reporter and a storyteller, I still, whenever I stumble upon this season and I start going down the rabbit hole of what if, like what would have happened? How much do you guys still think about that?
Yeah. It is hard to play the what if game because you never want to do that, and you just have to be thankful for everything you get moving forward. But that was a tough year to end on. I think we were either 8-2 or 9-1 heading into playoffs.
I think it was 9-1 in the last 10 games.
Yeah, 9-1 heading into playoffs. We had he just got decorated as the all-decade goalie. We had the best goalie in college history, I think, personally. I mean, maybe a little bit of bias, but never losing a tournament game. He had like under 2 goals against every year and like a 9-3 plus.
We had a shutout in his last. You had a shutout in the national championship.
So exactly. So
Shep in the NCAA in the postseason. I think it's safe to say postseason probably one of the best goaltenders to ever play college hockey.
Definitely. So when he's backstopping along with a team coming off a championship that knows what it takes and everyone's bought in and excited, I definitely do feel a little bit robbed, and I think everyone feels that same way. But even just for those seniors, because they got robbed of that and then they didn't get the extra year, which is just so unfortunate. I mean, they were probably the ones that should have got that year the most. But looking back at it, there's so many what ifs. I mean, but there's that St. Cloud team our freshman year who was unbelievable that whole season, and then loses first round in the tournament. Those single game knockouts, anything can happen. But I think we were destined to go to the Frozen Four at least for sure.
Jesse, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, we were playing our best hockey. Like Tanner's got the stats, obviously, but 9-1, going into that Miami series. Yeah, it was kind of a heartbreaker. I felt really bad for those seniors that year. I definitely wish they could have finished that year up. But we're trying to do something. Since Michigan, I think back in like the 50s or something, no programs done three-peat.
Yep.
So it's kind of a big thing for our program. And obviously Tanner and I wanted to like two-peat ourselves, but no, that was like a big thing for us. We're playing our best hockey. We had great forwards, great defensemen, a great goalie. We were just so excited. And then just to have that, our season halted really, really hurt us. Felt bad for our seniors, but yeah, I mean, even like the COVID year when we played in the bubble, I felt like we didn't get everything, but the year before that, like 1920, I think that was where the most got taken away, even though we played more games. That
1920 team, where does that rank compared to the 1819 team?
I can start us off. I will argue with anyone that 1819 team was one of the best teams in college hockey. We've recently gone over that roster and just the depth chart. If you even just look at our D-core and then with Shep, it's just it doesn't really make sense. You have Wolfie and Scott as your number one pairing, and then you have Mikey and Dill as your second pairing. There's just like you can't really top that as a top four. And then you have Maddie and Louie, who are amazing D-men playing 5-6 minutes. So it's like, I don't know how you can really score on that. And I guess we proved that we didn't let in any goals that whole season, really. And then we were just so deep up front too. So I'd probably see that 18-19 team was the strongest I've played for sure.
Yeah, because we've had this debate on the podcast. We've pitted 16-17, which I argue was a pretty dang good hockey team as well, even though they didn't win the national championship. Alex Iafallo, Neil Pionk, Dominic Toninato, those guys were pretty darn good. But yeah, 1920, I feel like doesn't come up in the conversation because the pandemic didn't allow that team to get to the national championship. But you don't think the 1920, Jesse? What do you think, 1920 or 1819, which is the stronger team? Because what's crazy about 1920, Tanner, you do mention like a lot of guys came back in 1920 that honestly had no business still being in college hockey, like true. Scotty Peradovich, Dylan Sandberg, those guys you would have thought would have went pro, but they came back to three-peat. And for me, it hurts that those guys didn't get a chance to do it, that they prolonged their NHL careers a year to come back for that three-peat, and they didn't get a chance to do it. Jesse, like, which team do you think is better? You're right, Tanner. 18-19 was pretty loaded as you start going through those names there.
That's a good question. But I think, the championship kind of speaks for itself. Obviously, we didn't get to finish the season in 1920, but I don't know. Like, both those teams are so good. Obviously, guys coming back, Scotty, Dylan, so good, so talented. I don't know. I guess we'll never know how that team would have ended up, but I think probably a national champion.
Did 2021, like in 2021, still technically you guys were going for a three-peat because no champion was declared the year before, but did it feel like you guys were still going for a three-peat at time, or was this team, it was pretty different in 2021 compared to 1920?
Yeah, I guess I can hop in there. It felt like a 2.5, 3 kind of mix, but no, I think it definitely still did feel like we were going for a three-peat. In our locker room, we believed we did. All of our guys believed we did. And we had a lot of guys come back that year too. So I definitely think that we were going for a three-peat, even though we did feel a little bit robbed the year before. And there were some other teams saying that they should have got the national championship for having the most points or having the best record or being pairwise ranked one. But I don't think that really works that way. But we can leave that at that.
Yeah, there are a few people celebrating. There were like 3 or 4 different simulated NCAA tournaments going on. I remember. I don't remember how they simulated it through video games or whatever. And yeah, a few teams were celebrating their simulated national championship in 1920, which was cute. We'll leave it at that for those programs. Last one before we kind of take a break here. That additional year kind of created this age gap between, in a lot of college hockey teams and locker rooms. I go back to like when you guys got in as freshmen, that was an older team, but like the age gaps were 4 or 5 years. And I was looking at this year's roster, and Jesse, I think you're totally justified using kids because there's like a 6 to 7 year age gap now between some of the seniors on this year's team and the 18-year-old, freshmen coming into the program. What's that been like? What's that dynamic been like for you guys to navigate? How different is a locker room maybe now compared to what it was, when you guys first got to college?
You want this, Tanner?
Yeah, I guess I can take it.
You're the oldest guy on the team, right?
Yeah, I can definitely say that kids is the right way of putting it. Even just it's just so different. We grew up so differently. They're growing up in a much different time than we did. And even though it's such a short time in the retrospect of, years, but they're just different. We even watched different shows growing up. We did different things growing up. There wasn't as much technology when we grew up. Like you were going outside and you were going to knock on your neighbor's door to see if your friend was home. It wasn't like, here, let me just use Snapchat to see if my buddy's home. It wasn't like that. So there's a lot of differences, and it is something to navigate. You have to be able to put yourselves in like more in their scenario and be able to relate to them. So learning how to relate and make sure that you still pass on that culture while connecting with them. It's been something to learn, and I think it's a good thing that we've learned it because it's going to be something we use in the future too, whether that's in hockey in the future, or in business, or in life. But it is also fun too. You have a lot of different perspectives, but that age gap is a little bit funny right now too.
Jesse, how about you?
Yeah, obviously it's way different. I liked how Tanner said when we were young, you'd go and knock on your friend's door rather than like Snapchatting or texting them or something. But no, I like to argue with them and talk about like what movies and TV shows were good growing up. And yeah, we disagree on a lot, but no, they're really good guys. Getting to know them, they're unbelievable kids. I just wanted to bring that term back in. No, but yeah, I really like them. They're a young group. They're fun. But yeah, I just think that it changes our perspective a little bit, and we get to kind of teach them, the Bulldog way, the culture, and how we won. So I don't know. I really enjoy them. I think it's fun having them, and yeah, I like it.
There's still a connection there. It's just a different connection than maybe what it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, I'm gonna miss you guys just because you make me feel less old. You guys got to connect more with Krause sometimes. You guys sound more like you're Krause at my age. That Krause's way younger than me even, but
we're not that old though.
You're not that old. You guys aren't that old. You make people like Dan and Zach and I feel less old when we talk to you and Naomi Rogie and Ashton Bell and Gabby Hughes and all of them that have been around here for a while. All right, we're going to take a short break, not turn this into an old man podcast. When we come back, we'll have more with Tanner and Jesse. You're listening to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health.
Hello, Northlanders. I'm Wyatt Buckner, and we have something special coming your way. A new weekly podcast titled Northlandia, a place to bring your curiosity, because there you will find curiosities. Whether it's the true story of Ely's band of mushers, or a look inside Duluth's teeny tiniest store, we celebrate the region's distinctive people, places, and history. Each week, I'll be joined by my fellow reporters who share the unique and fascinating stories that they discover while exploring the Northland. You'll be able to find episodes of Northlandia starting in March on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Join us along this journey and discover the extraordinary stories that you just might miss if you're not in the right place at the right time, ready to step off the beaten path with no rush to return in Northlandia.
Hi, I'm Maria Lockwood, a reporter with the Superior Telegram. Explore Superior and Douglas County history with me on Archive Dive, a monthly podcast available at superiortelegram.com or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Welcome back to the Bulldog Insider Podcast, brought to you by Essentia Health, Orthopedics, and Sports Medicine. They're proud to be the team physicians for the UMD Bulldogs and provide sports medicine care to more than 25,000 student athletes in the community to ensure they can compete at the highest level, while protecting their long-term health and athletic futures. Thanks to Essentia Health for their support of the Bulldog Insider Podcast. I'm Matt Wellens, joined by my guests, Jesse Jacques and Tanner Laderoute. And we're going to do some kind of quick hits here to close out the podcast this week. You two are going through senior night for a second time. And I guess we're doing it Friday, for what I heard, instead of Saturday, as we don't know what time your game's really going to. 8:30 scheduled start on Saturday, but that's as long as 3 other games don't go into overtime or craziness. I'm wondering, as you guys go through senior night for a second time here, what do you both remember about your first day as a Bulldog? Tanner, we'll start with you. What do you remember about that first day coming to Duluth and Amsoil?
Yeah, I guess I have multiple first days. I guess I have a first day as a student and then first day as a hockey player, or as just a person in general. So my first day, I got in, Keps picked me up, and we stayed at his dad's house. It was just very different. So I wasn't really sure how I was going to go, but he was so nice. His family was so nice. And they kind of made sure that I felt welcomed. I mean, I think they knew that it would be a little bit awkward for, a Canadian to make it over. So they tried to just make sure it was as easy as possible. But then walking into Amsoil and working out that first day, you weren't allowed to skate for a while because you had to make sure you had your physical in. So it was a little bit different. But that first day, it's the facilities, the place, it was just so beautiful because I got to come in summer, so it was for that first May term because they bring in the freshmen early. So meeting everyone and the coaches and the facilities, just really actually grasping it was phenomenal, and I'm just so happy and thankful for my entire time here. And I won't be able to say how good Duluth is just with words, and UMD and the school and the hockey team as in general. But I wouldn't trade that experience for really anything. And then one thing I do kind of remember was, going to Target and everyone's kind of got their families there, and I'm kind of just going rogue on my own, trying to figure out what I need, and going into Oakland, and there was a shower, but they didn't tell you that you need a shower curtain. So my first shower in Duluth was without a shower curtain. So I had to make sure that the water was spraying off me back into the shower. So it was a couple funny stories, and just, learning how to live on your own. I guess I lived on my own a little bit in junior, but you're with a billet, and that's still a family. But this is like the first real, like, you're on your own. So a lot of learning experiences and a lot of fun, and wouldn't trade any of those memories for anything.
Jesse, you grew up around here. What do you remember about your first day? I think we've talked about it before. You kind of were a late addition to the roster that year. Yeah. Jason Herder called it up and saying, "Hey, we got an open center spot. We need you to come in." Yes. The Herman, I say, you're the Hermantown call up.
Yeah, I've had some. I remember I wasn't committed at the time, and I had some talks with Coach Sandlin. And one day it was like, getting pretty close to where I was going to head out to Green Bay for juniors. I think, if I remember the date, which is kind of weird, day after my dad's birthday, I think it was August 17th. He calls me and he said, "Yeah, just come in and talk." So I go in there and talk with him, and all the coaches are in there. And I'm just like, kind of a weird situation here. I guess they all want to talk to me. And we just had like a nice little chat. And then I remember Sandy goes, "Yeah, and we want you to be a Bulldog." And I go, "Oh, awesome. Like, I'm going to commit right now. I'm going to go play juniors and hopefully tear it up, have some fun." And I'm just not really thinking much of it. I'm almost about to leave. And then Krause looks at me and goes, "He's talking about this fall, right?" And I'm like, I froze. I'm like, "No way. Are you serious?" So that was a very exciting time, just with my family and friends and stuff like that. But I remember my first day because I didn't get a May term, so everyone was already knew each other. I was so nervous, and I just felt so out of it. I was kind of the only guy not with the team the first day. I was at the school running around. I had to borrow, I remember, Cole's car, and it was just chaos that day. But no, I wouldn't trade that for anything. The day I committed, just meeting everyone, that was really special for me.
When people say UMD just literally calls people up from the Hermantown High School program, it's because of Jesse that year, literally being called up after there was a player, and I feel bad, I forgot the kid's name. He was a good kid, but injury situation, couldn't come in, and they needed a center bad, and there's Jesse just sitting there in the wings. Was Nick Wolf scary? I've had former teammates of your guys, when we talk about like their first day as Bulldogs, they mention like they were scared of Nick Wolf. So I got to throw that out there. You guys are like the last ones that were youngins playing with him. Was Nick Wolf scary?
No, I'm going to jump out and say no. I I'm actually really close with Nick Wolf. I mean, you have the people who you're a little bit closer with, and there's 25 people. So he was one of the closer people over my years, and he comes off a little bit like he's hard, but he's a big old teddy bear when it comes down to it. And you can quote me or bring that up to him, and we might go have to battle in the corner again after that. But I remember I would always go against him in King Low. I would always try to find a way. I'm glad I was on his team, though. Again, if I was on the other team, he would be a little scary. But having him on your team, he was a little less scary.
Yeah, you don't want to be playing against him with your head down going across the middle of the ice. I'll tell you that. No, but I definitely wasn't scared. Maybe a little intimidated on my first week, but yeah, once you get to know him, he was a great guy.
You didn't play him in high school, did you, Jesse?
No.
Okay.
I think my brother did, though.
Your brother did?
Yeah.
And I believe that's where a couple guys were like, yeah, we saw him in high school, and he was scary back then as well. I'm glad we put that to rest, that Nick Wolf was not scary. Tanner, what has it meant to you to play for your favorite player, Adam Krause, for 5 years?
Yeah. That's kind of been a running joke ever since what was that, the media question where they asked me and they put it on?
I think it was a freshman year. Yeah, it was like
yeah.
the question on the
favorite
video board.
player.
Who's your favorite hockey player growing up? And Adam Krause was on this list with like Sidney Crosby and I forget who else. It was like the name just did not stick out, and I don't think anyone guessed Adam. They thought, oh well, that's the throwaway name, and sure enough, the right answer was Adam Krause.
Yeah, I think it should stick out a little bit more. He was an awesome UMD player, and he continued to play hockey, which is every person's dream. And maybe it was to get a little bit more ice time back in the day. You never know. And maybe he heard that, and I got a little bit extra time. But no, it's a good joke, and we still talk about it today, and we both laugh about it. But that was pretty funny, and I didn't really know. I mean, coming as a freshman, you don't really want to stick out. You want to stick out, but you don't want to stick out the wrong way. So I think that was actually a game they put it on where Coach Sandelin wasn't there. I want to say, or he didn't hear it or something. It was just perfect timing where they put that on where Coach Sandelin wasn't listening, so I didn't have to stick out too much.
I always thought you were just gaining favor for AHL, which brings me to my next question. The NCHC released its all-decade team recently that was voted on by the fans. Who are your guys' all AHL team, Afternoon Hockey League team, from the last 5 years? Who are some of the best guys you played with?
I've been a part of it for a while now. I'd have to say, Krause is up there. He's just that type of player.
If you didn't say Krause, you would get benched on senior night right now.
Yeah, well, he's on my team now. It's like me, Tanner, Krause, and Chup or Dash to kind of rotate in. But I don't know. There's been some good players. I think Kobe Roth was kind of sneaky good in it. So I'd have to go with Tanner, Roth, myself, and Krause.
No Jade Miller, huh?
I'm keeping him off.
He was very passionate about AHL. He had just him versus, that's like the rivalry between Jade and Krause in AHL. Tanner, how about you? Who's on your team?
I'll stick pretty similar to Jess here, but one person I have to shout out. He was there very brief, but Jason Garrison, his stick was insane. There was nothing going by him. You couldn't score. His stick was just.
He was on Krause's team, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, see, I thought that's why Garrison got brought in, was Krause was bringing it. What about Derek Plant? Where did he rank in there?
He was good. He's he battles and he scores, and it's funny to see how, like, his vision or his ability, I mean, because his resume speaks for itself, but even just seeing it in person, even though it's a little different type of hockey than what happens now, but he just finds a way to create always, and it's crazy to see.
Yeah, great player, but there's always room for the second team all HL.
Jesse's not getting a contract from the Blackhawks this offseason. The NCAA is expanding coaching staffs in men's and women's hockey next year from 3 to 4. Which former teammate would make a good third assistant for the Bulldogs?
I can hop in here. I think it was already kind of in the works and supposed to happen, but I would always say Parker Mackay. I don't know if this is breaking news, but it was kind of maybe going to be him for the assistant coaching role, and now we're with Chupper, who is absolutely awesome, and I'm glad that it went that way. And now Parker's super successful with the Boston Bruins. But if it wasn't a matter of changing jobs or anything like that, I think Parker Mackay would always be a great assistant, and then former or future head coach. Sorry,
that's who I kind of had on my list until you know, he has a sweet gig with Boston Bruins.
You're not leaving that.
Boston Bruins right now. Jesse, who from your time?
Yeah, that's a good answer. It would have to be Parker. I don't know. Tanner just said everything right. Yeah.
He just comes right to mind, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's the first guy.
All right. Last question. We talked about it a little bit before we started recording. Jesse, big Section 7 playoffs underway here. We can't have a Hermantown guy on the podcast without talking a little Section 7 here before the playoffs start. I'm not going to ask you for a prediction because we know you're going to pick Hermantown to win in 7A. But what are your thoughts on Denfeld and Rockridge moving up to AA?
I think that can be good. I was kind of reading a little bit about that. What are they trying to attract? More kids, more talent, things like that. I don't think they're necessarily running away from Hermantown by any means. I think they're just trying to better their programs, and I think that could be a good decision for them. I guess we're just going to find out.
Tanner, do you have thoughts? You've been here 5 years now. You got thoughts on the drama of Section 7 hockey? It's got to be the most dramatic section in all of Minnesota, Section 7, between the debates over whether Hermantown should move up and the AA battles and such. Have you formed your opinions yet on the controversial topics of Section 7 hockey in Minnesota?
I don't think I have enough technical information on whether to go up or down or how that all works, but I have heard numerous times about Hermantown being single A or should be AA, and then having the AA guys yelling that they should be and shouldn't be, and it's just a constant battle since for 5 years, and I still haven't even heard like anyone budge. So there's either they should or shouldn't be, and no one's budging. So that's all I have to say on that. Well,
you got a few more weeks to develop an opinion here as we get into the high school state tourney time in Minnesota. One of the few times the Wild and college hockey start getting overshadowed. High school takes over the state here. Guys, thank you so much for joining the podcast this week. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Bulldog Insider Podcast. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe and rate us. For more Bulldog hockey coverage, visit therinklive.com and DuluthNewsTribune.com. Like I hinted, it's a crazy weekend at Amsoil Arena. The women are hosting St. Cloud State in a best-of-3 WCHA quarterfinal series that starts Friday and will run through Sunday if necessary. The men have Miami coming to town on Friday and Saturday. There's also the Section A and AA boys hockey tournament happening. The AA semifinals are on Saturday before the men's and women's games. That's 4 games at Amsoil starting at 11 a.m. I'll have all the TV and streaming info for the UMD series in the Bulldog Insider newsletter. You can sign up for that at Duluth.com/Bulldog Insider. Thanks to our sponsor, Essentia Health, for their support of the Bulldog Insider podcast. And thanks to all of you for listening. We'll catch you next week.